Well, good morning and welcome back to the Beef and Barnzy show after a couple of weeks off. I am joined by internet personality, PBA titleist, Weber Cup multiple time winner, and the inevitable, the unimitable lean beef stew. How are you this morning?
Oh, less lean than I was before I went to Reno.
Well, that is part of the deal, I'm afraid. Yeah, it's a little tough to eat good while you're on the road, and it's even less so when there's not much open. So
I was about to say it's a little tough to eat, period, in Reno.
it is where we were, that's for sure. So
yeah, I think in hindsight, if we were going to reevaluate the trip, a car would have probably been a good idea. Between 4 or 5 or 6 of us, I don't think it would have been too much of an expensive proposition, regardless of the price.
Yeah, I guess so, because we were all in different squads, so we could have flipped it back and forth.
Yeah, that might have made life a little easier. So,
but anyway,
a interesting couple of weeks in Reno. Chris Barnes, the bowler, showed up,
and Stu Williams.
Yeah,
the shot maker showed up
at least half the time.
We both managed to pop our cherry a little bit and get some checks this year. So
yeah, I was at one point the office meme where the guy goes, "It's happening, it's happening." At one point in our match between when I was bowling Vi and you were bowling Simonson, it was looking like me and you were going to be bowling each other. It's really happening.
Yeah.
And then I yipped one across the Brooklyn and didn't carry it, and that was that. And then Chris Vice says, "Well, no, I beat the shit out of you, mate. Now I'll take you down."
Yeah, I'm going to move about 10 left here and make this look like not the Masters. And
yeah,
I did the same in every match, pretty much. I had about somewhere between 6 and 15 frames where I could kind of thread it in there, and then I couldn't. They were hard. They were really hard for the Masters.
Yeah, and I think that some of it is a little overblown as to how hard it was, because I think some of it was to do with the fact that we never really bowled on anything where the lane got burnt up. So yeah. I think that there's been other times I've bowled the Masters where they've been as challenging as that, and the scoring pace hasn't really reflected that. But not having any kind of sort of burn situation and having no matches on burn, it was the most pure, for want of a better description. So yeah,
integrity was not compromised. So
yeah, that's true. And no matter how much practice we had, 15 minutes, as much as we tried, it was a little difficult to knock a hole in it. RE, my match against Thomas Larson. Tried my best, failed miserably. Tried to say I was going to stop him shooting 700. He almost shot 800.
You almost did.
So that was that was pretty spectacular.
It was pretty interesting with 15 minutes of practice that we really weren't able to make it. We couldn't basically even beat up a spot enough to make it really any better. Just yeah, I mean, it's been a while. We don't bowl as many matches before, but I remember kind of how to do it, and they were just hard. And all it did is kind of make the front hook a little bit more, and never really developed anything down lane.
I think Chad's talking about the US Open. Well, he had a couple of practice shots, so that is the main reason to use urethane in match play, apart from it blending the lane, is to it makes the lane to lane a little easier, because of course you're not covering as much lane. So I think that Chris went all in, and he did a nice job. But Chris had bowled on that pattern with reactive as well in the qualifier, so maybe Chris would be a better person to answer this question as to why he didn't use reactive more in the match play. But being as he averaged 241 on that pattern, it seemed like it didn't really matter a great deal whether he used reactive or urethane.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many purple hammers going down the lane that once that much urethane gets used, a lot of times if you're not using it, you get caught a little bit. It pushes oil down the lane, and then it kind of becomes its own circle where you almost have to use it to match up to the lane the right way. And
Yeah.
Chris is one of the few guys that could make his ball shape enough, and it was pretty good. And then at the end, he finally had too much early hook with not as much down lane as some of the other guys, and so uh, he took the biggest, slowest reactive ball, and he has more tricks than a lot of the two handers do, and he was able to make it go forward and blend it all out. And and let's be honest, I'm not sure even Belmo has been better than he has been the last 5 or 6 majors.
Oh no, he definitely hasn't.
Absolutely on fire. It's
although Belmo would probably have made more money out of those 5 or 6 majors. Winning them is quite the difference between, and winning the right one as well. Tends to make a little bit of difference to your bank balance. Right. We've got a lot of questions about urethane.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure what Randy said regarding urethane during the TV finals.
Yeah, I was watching my son's bowl, so I didn't get to really hear. He was pretty vocal the night before about that 1980s technology was being used to average 240 at the U.S. Open, and it seemed a little backwards from what kind of the U.S. Open has been the last 20 years. I'm old enough to have bowled in the 90s when I was in 10th with a round to go. I averaged 230 the last round, and I lost ground on the show pretty significantly to Pete, who averaged 270 for the first 7 games that night. And just in case I was wondering how close the professional amateurs were back then to the actual professionals, and we weren't. That we didn't possess yet. So it's not always been the hardest pattern ever. I do think it identified, it created an identity that way there in the 2000s, and it held it for a long time. And this has been a little bit of a departure. And so, like everything else, bowlers hate change. And so there's been a lot of pushback about it.
I think I think what it comes down to is every year at every tournament, somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose. And the PBA has raised the bar in terms of prize funds this season. And that the history of those 2 tournaments that the USBC run is what's on their side. And when the perceived prestige of the US Open, which for me has never really been any more than any of the others, is based on the fact that they feel like the best bowler wins, like the players feel like the best bowler wins every time because we bowl on conditions that are very challenging. Then the US Open this year just became another tournament. And that was the sad part of it, because with the way the lane conditions were, it wasn't really any different to bowl in any other tournament. Whereas other times we bowled that tournament, it has been, and it's been significantly more challenging. Whether lane conditions really ups the prestige or not, I don't know, but that was the perceived way it was. We'll see.
Yeah, to be honest, I think it's a little bit of a combination. And this year is this year. There's some challenges that were going to make this a different tournament, both the Masters and the U.S. Open anyway. But
it's also not the first time that the last pattern at the U.S. Open has been quite easy.
No, the last few years, since we've gone to the multiple patterns, it's been that way pretty much every year.
Except in North Carolina. In North Carolina, when Frankie won, they were miserable in the round robin. But yeah, when Jacob won in Wichita, he was shooting 1,300 for 5 games, I think, a couple of times.
Yeah, I don't know if that score was available on both sides of the lane.
No. Exactly. All I'm saying is we've seen, like, Chris Vi averaged 241 in the round robin and the other round on that pattern. I'm saying that I've seen people do that before.
Right.
It's just, who cares? It is what it is. We're not. It doesn't take in any way take away from Chris's achievement. It's just going forward, the US Open might not hold the same mystique if that's the way they want to do it. So
yeah, and it's a little tricky with the smaller field. One of the things that made it, it was one of the things I didn't like about it either was when it was 480 bowlers and you had lots of people who basically just had zero chance of bowling on something that hard, bowling the tournament. But that was part of the challenge of it. They're going across all the different bowlers, throwing it everywhere, and trying to make it through qualifying, and then bowling on something that was really hard. And day 2 was really hard.
Yeah, and here's Jake saying day 1 35 flat, day 2 40 flat, day 3 45 flat. People get really into the mystique of this 1-to-1 stuff. The Masters was way harder than the flat pattern was.
Yeah, ironically. And
so
it had a little shape to it, and I bowled 15 games of qualifying in 6 matches, and at the end, I didn't have any better idea than I did at the beginning where the perfect place to play was.
The only thing that I realized was that Thomas Larson had a skill set that I needed to be able to play that pattern to a better way, because he didn't have any problem shooting 700. Give him his own lane. He was like, out my way, boys.
Yeah, he put it on him. That's for sure. It was Thomas Larson and Sterner really just
yeah, and they kind of did the same thing. Just Thomas did it with reactive, and Jason did it with urethane.
Yeah, there's exactly.
That's a very simplistic way of looking at it as well. It's also if the lanes are dished or if they have a huge track area, like that has way more to do with it than breaking the lane down. Yeah. Like it's way easier to trash a lane than it is to make it better.
Yeah, 1-to-1 in an older place like Carolier, you had a little bit of shape to play to.
Yeah.
1-to-1 on a new surface or one that's crowned a little bit, and they're just disgusting. It doesn't really matter.
Or 1-to-1 in where did we bowl in Lincoln, Nebraska?
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of put me in my place. That 1-to-1 is easily the hardest one that we ever bowled on. That 37 foot in Lincoln, they were truly impossible.
I bowled C squad. I watched all day. I knew how hard they were. I had enough score. All I needed to do was just grind. And I shot 130 right out of the gate.
Yeah. Well, I went the opposite direction. I shot 620 or something. And everybody around me was like, you love this shit, don't you? Oh, yeah. 3 140s in a row afterwards. Well, maybe I don't. I was heaving a shiny pitch black. And then she didn't want to quite tip like she was doing. Things got a little messy when I started trying to use my tricks.
So your best match at the Masters?
Best match at the Masters. For a match, the best back and forth was against Chapman. But that was because we both bowled like assholes. I mean, we both bowled awful. Like, awful. The reason why I won was because I made more spares. But, like, it was an awful match. Like I said to him at the end, later on that night, I go, no matter who won that match, the other person had the right to say, man, that guy was so lucky. Because I mean, it was just a terrible match. It looked very much like a high roller match.
Yeah.
Nah, you have it. Nah, you have it. Okay, I'll roll a couple of 2s. All right, you still got it. Oh no, you missed a spare. Okay, I won. Like it was bad. Like neither of us crowned ourselves in glory that match. The match I think that I bowled the best was against Nathan. I felt like I bowled really good that match against Nathan. it was strange because it felt like Nathan was trying to break the lane down in a way to cause me issues, and he wasn't in his mind, but it did cause me issues. And I just, with a minute to go, I was like, I'm gonna have to throw my pitch black. I don't really have another option. So I didn't even use it on the other lane. I only used it on the one lane in practice because I only threw one shot with it. And I'm like, I'm just gonna have to go with this one. So I think that was the match I bowled the best, and I think I threw the least bad shots in that match. I guess if you were looking at it and you didn't look at the other guy, the match I probably performed the best in was against Thomas Larson. But it's really difficult to get super excited at being 460 after 2 when the other guy's like 5'10".
Not a lot of hope in there.
Yeah. But yeah, and especially as I was trying to make the lane back.
Chatting comments about the U.S. Open, where about the 2-0 where he took out the 6-9, went back through it. If you haven't seen that video, it's one thing to do it when you're trying. It's another thing to do it. It's another thing to do it when you're for competition, and then he misses the U.S. Open cut by 1 pin.
Two would have eradicated a roll off. So what about you? Larry's saying you and Duke match. What was going on there?
I didn't hit the pocket on the left lane until the 4th frame of the 3rd game. It literally went everywhere. I think I had a Brooklyn. I might have had a roll 2 on it. And I cashed one of them in for a double. So I didn't have very many doubles either through 2 games. And but I did throw. I was trying to throw some urethane. I know Duke doesn't particularly like that a whole lot, and for whatever reason, he abandoned the game plan that got him the 2nd overall seed and moved left and gave me a chance in a match I probably didn't deserve. I finally moved, about 12 right and threw it about a mile and a half hour harder and straighter on the left lane, and was able to put together the last 7 to shoot 250, including the first one, the 10th, is as good as I could throw it, and the second one, the 10th, was about as opposite of that as I could throw it. And
I was about to say it definitely wasn't as bad as you could throw it. I've been watching you.
Yeah, that could be. It just through the face, but it was through the face early. And then I scouted the 6 out on kind of a nose diver, and that shut him out by count. And so, it was a bad beat on.
It was very weird because 2 or 3 of the guys who I felt like had really good ball reaction ended up meeting each other, or things didn't quite go their way. Like I thought Duke was going to be really dangerous. You took care of him, and then I can't remember who he lost his next match to.
He didn't bowl a very good match after that. He was then Arrow in the next match.
Yeah, I felt like Nick Crummell was bowling fantastic, but he had to end up bowling Thomas Larson, so that changed the scenario. Marshall was another guy who had a pretty good ball reaction, and Marshall had the most bizarre thing in the world happen to him. Marshall bowled 2 matches, and he had 1497 bowled against him, which is
the 2 highest scores in the whole match play.
Yeah,
and both of them.
It just didn't even comprehend how that was even remotely possible. And that's, for the people who argue about the Masters, that's the one that you can't. That's the one you can't you can't do anything about it. I mean, the scoring pace was low. Every pair 620 was a good score, and like Marshall had 750 bowled against him twice. And he went lose. Like what? Like what?
Yeah, my scores were 628 to 624, 624. I think if AJ was struck out, it would have been he could have won with like a higher 620. I shot 620 again and won. Shot 620 again and won. And then when I didn't shoot 620, I lost. So, and they didn't shoot a whole lot more than that. It's like 610, 630 for the other 2 matches. So,
so Jake was saying, What I'm saying is in my opinion, it should have been tougher. That's all. As a major, it should have been. Yeah, no. I feel like I was maybe a little dismissive. I just got a little bit frustrated by everybody. I personally don't feel like it adds to the challenge, them adding more patterns in. So that was all. I don't really feel like we need a different pattern every day. I just don't.
It might be my least favorite thing about what we do now.
Yeah.
I think actually
natural variation.
Yeah, I mean, it happens anyway. And I think how the field plays patterns make the patterns change. And you can make adjustments and dial things in as the week goes on if you have tools. And if you don't, then you kind of got what you got. When you change it every day, it becomes a new guessing game a little bit. And
here's another question that it's almost like he was reading my mind. Robert says, do you think there should be an adjustment to even out the squads? The last squad was so much higher than the earlier squads. How does this happen? That's a great question. And it didn't happen that way every day. The reason why the disparity happened quite so bad this week was because the second day, the flat pattern played way, I'm going to say less difficult because easy isn't the right term.
Right.
It played way less difficult. It was way less of a challenge in the morning than it was in the afternoon and the evening. And that's where my squad dominated. So we got about what we were going to get. So everybody was really shocked that the cut went up quite so much. But before I went out, I said to Chris, I was looking at the scores and I counted up and I said, if our squad has the same amount of people as we had before we started the day, the cut will be 250 over, which seemed insane. But at the same time, we were on the squad that had been getting them all week.
Mm-hmm.
And it became 250 over. It was 251 over. So the only way you can do it, and this is what Martin suggested, is that you just do, and this would make life way easier if they had one pattern as well, is if you bowl the first day and then they just reseed. Because then you would be bowling at least, you would be you would have earned your spot, so to speak. But, I don't know. The answer is I don't know, because we were talking about it and a lot of people have been complaining about that happening on the PBA tour, especially in the summer swing tournaments where we have the two squads and one squad just annihilates the other squad. And there's no real logic to it. It's not like, oh my God, what were they thinking when they put these two squads together? I felt like they did a pretty good job of balancing the squads. I didn't feel like my squad got 19 and I think it was Darren Tang's squad got 6. I didn't look at those two squads and go, as if that squad, I wasn't going, hey, Darren, do you want to bowl $1,000 a man, your squad versus our squad? It wasn't like that. So, yeah, I don't know. People felt like it was something to do with Brunswick doing the maintenance on the PBA for a little while. Whenever this happens, I never really thought that, because we bowled in plenty of places where it's happened with Kegel as well.
Yeah. I think machines have a hard time getting all the oil off on a one pass, and it doesn't really matter which machine. I think they both struggle with it a little bit. And when you have a tons of carry down and those kind of things, then that gets it. When the patterns are hard, very small differences make a big difference. And when they're easier, they get covered up. So,
yeah, I think it's when they're at the real extremes, though. When they're really easy as well. Mm-hmm. It makes a difference as well. It's like that middle scoring pace where it's, the one place that it was, for whatever reason, that it was been really weird a couple of times is Lubbock. It's happened in Lubbock a few times where the scoring, I remember that John Burkett drove home.
Yeah.
And then drove back because this is John is the least big time person ever, even though he's got every right to be. And he was afraid that if he didn't come back, everybody would think he'd big time the tournament. He thought he was better than everybody else. And it was no, John, we wouldn't have thought that. We'd have thought you were insane for driving 5 hours back at 4 a.m. because you were just basically coming back for a check. You had no chance of making it. We'd have just gone, yeah, that happens. Don't worry about it. Because I think he was like, I think they cut to like 42 and he was like 29th on his squad or whatever. He's like, I'm not going to make it. And he left and then he did make it. So.
Oh, we have plenty of comments in there. There's something about having a ball list and then belong 3 patterns. And that's, I mean, somewhat of a point. I think it gives a little bit more of an advantage to the left-handers because at least the way the patterns have been built lately, they're playing basically the same part of the lane all the time, which means the same 3 or 4 balls.
To be fair, this week, because we didn't have as much lineage, I mean, it was basically the same for us. I mean, I barely used half the balls I registered.
Yeah, a lot of earlier rolling balls, not so much of the weak stuff.
Yeah.
Get rid of urethane. I do think there was a plan there, and I think it was alluded to, but basically the third day was moving day. And by putting the highest scoring pattern on the last day, it gave a lot of people who had not bowled well, so it still gave them a chance, at least a perceived chance, to pick up a lot of pens.
And it was bullshit.
But yeah, when the scoring pace changes, it's awfully hard to gap out. When you bowl 65 over on the hard pattern and you make up,
it just makes the hard pattern completely irrelevant. Just don't have it then. If you're gonna let someone shoot, if we're gonna have a pattern where multiple people can shoot 350 over, then don't have a pattern where nobody can shoot 150 over. It's just a complete waste of a day. Just makes it pointless. It's just, it's the same thing with the World Championships when they had Thailand was the worst.
Yeah.
The long was absolutely impossible. The short was like a league pattern, and it just makes it pointless. You're just wasting time bowling on the flat pattern. It's just
Reno was with us, and we bowled team, and when we bowled on the long, he was leading all events, and he was the pacer.
Yeah, I mean the Koreans had two or three guys make it, average 172 on the long, but they averaged 250 something on the short, so it was fine.
Yeah.
Like if you do, the problem with the patterns is if you take 2 guys who, like, one guy leads the short and one guy leads the long, if they finish about the same position on the opposite pattern down, but one guy is like 100 places ahead, then you know you screwed it up.
Yeah.
Like AJ Johnson bowled like a god, like on the flat pattern, shot 150 over.
Yeah.
147 over was his score to lead the day. Like, I think 6 or 8 people shot 300 over. Yeah. Like, yeah. That's the problem. With multiple pattern tournaments, the hardest part of doing it is to balance the scoring pace. Like, we have this every year with the World Series with Cheetah. Once Cheetah's in there, it makes it so hard to balance the tournament. I mean, it happened at the World Series this year. I mean,
you don't get out of the gates with 250, 300 over, then you're chasing a number you can't get to the rest of the week.
Yeah, and then it's just and all of these things don't affect who wins. They don't, not at all. They don't affect who wins, but they affect greatly the amount of people which guys make the top 24.
Yeah.
Same thing happened when they had the Burn squad before. There was guys who'd bowl so good on the Burn squad at the US Open when we were at Carolina specifically, that then they were just passengers for the 24.
Yeah.
You knew the 4 guys who were going to finish in the bottom 4 because they were the 4 guys who got all their score on the Burn squad. And then the round robin coming, you're like, yeah, you guys are 21 through 24. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
And they were, because they just didn't have a look on fresh. And that's the hardest part of the multiple squads, is like trying to balance the scoring pace. And I don't envy anybody for doing it, because there's no way that you can believe the scoring pace is going to be the way it is on some of the patterns. Like, I watched the guys practice the night before. There was no world I thought the scores were going to be that high for the round robin, watching those guys practice the night before. I didn't think they were going to be low, but I didn't think they were going to average 240.
Right.
Like it didn't really look that easy to control it, and then suddenly it was.
The always theory here is, after all the traffic during the day, the lanes get warmer, and that's cute. Except we're not in a small bowling center. We're in a 400,000 square foot facility. The weather outside wasn't significantly warmer during the day. The temperature inside the building was the same. There was 3 hours between squads. The lane beds didn't change significantly in temperature.
And they weren't even being used the whole time. They're only being used half the time.
Right. And so there's just that. That's one of those theories that's going to age about, as well as there's no carry down, which is the one I heard for years.
Yeah, even though there was streaks down the lane.
Yeah, plenty of them.
And the lane guys have come up with a lot of what was PA's favorite? Static hang.
Static hand?
Static hang. After they redid the lanes. That was a good one. All right, let's talk about something more important. My friend Sean's a Bills fan. Okay, let's talk about something. Is Adelman a Hall of Famer? No, probably not. He's a Hall of Famer in my heart.
What do we think of red oil? It doesn't really matter. We didn't bowl on it. So it's a lot brighter than the blue was, but I don't know the percentage they put in it to make it that way either.
I
do. The shows played differently than the week a little bit more. So
I did kind of like how it looked on the lane though. Like I felt like you could actually see the pattern. Whereas I don't, even with the blue oil, I don't feel like you can see the pattern. And like we were debating as to whether that was because they oiled just the one way with the Brunswick machine, or whether, with the Kegel machine coming back over it, that made a difference. I'm not smart enough to know.
And then can you explain speed bumps to me? It's basically they put a 2-to-2 across down towards the end of the lane, and it's just more oil. But what it does when your ball hits it, it basically lets it lose traction, and so it looks like your ball has hydroplaned for a foot. Knocks a little of the rev rate out, and certainly stops the momentum as it heads up towards the head pin. And that, more than anything, is what created all of the urethane being used, because you had to get your brake point in front of that speed bump and roll through it versus trying to hook off of it. And how I know that to be a fact is because Jason never moved left and grabbed a big ball and hooked around that spot. And if it was possible, when he was sitting around in 14th place, it would have gone down the lane.
Here's a fun one. Before I bring this comment up, I don't necessarily disagree with him, but I've got a devil's advocate point of view for it. He says, I don't like how the US Open went down. Have more tournaments like the Masters and you will see a whole new group of people making the TV shows. Right. I'm going to just stop there before he finishes. 3 people made the top 6 in both tournaments.
Yeah.
So the format and the lane conditions, everything else didn't really make that much difference. Chris Knight, Sam Cooley,
matters more than
Jason Sterner.
Yeah.
Those 3 guys, 2 of them made both shows. Cooley came, whatever he came in the Masters.
He came 6th in both.
Oh, sorry. Yes, my bad. Yeah, Cooley didn't make the show, did he? He was 6th in both. Yeah. My bad. So, yeah.
It's pretty strong.
So there you go. So, yes, I do tend to agree with you. Yes, I'd like to see the 7-game the matches back at some point.
Yeah, I mean, for everybody that says, hey, the scores are too high and all that, when the scores are low, they complain that they're impossible and there's no fun to watch. So we all want what we don't have. So.
Here's a sadist. So somebody who enjoyed the Women's US Open.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of, we can ask this one. She was on that show. She had her second most hooking ball, and by the 5th frame, she was throwing her spare ball because there was so much mud on the lane.
Here's one of my fans. They need to bring Viper back to the World Series. Preach.
I remember that one. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. Why did they remove Shark? They didn't. They just call it Scorpion.
Yeah. Yeah, they pretty much bastardize all the patterns by changing all the distances and making the names irrelevant because I have no idea why. We didn't run out of names. But shark was always 43, scorpion was 41, you know.
We just have way too many patterns.
Chameleon was 39, viper was 37, and then we just started making all those. Now shark is sometimes 47, sometimes it's 44. Scorpion can be. They're all 5
Scorpion's the best one. Scorpion can be anything from 41 to 49.
Yeah, and
it's wild.
Let's just randomly change them and then call them the same name and act like it's not a different.
My favorite is when they say they bring up the stats for Jesper averages this on Chameleon, and 1 year it was 44 feet, and the next year, or 43 feet, and the next year it was 39 feet, as if they had any relevance to each other.
Yeah, really. I mean, the most important thing about all of this, and the biggest challenge at the U.S. Open was identifying the scoring pace, and then shooting the score that matched up to that, and making your choices correctly.
And that was one thing I felt like our squad was very fortunate for, because day one, we were on B.
Right.
So we got a look at it, and then we bowled. Day two, we were on A on the flat pattern, and we went out and we just bowled. And they what we like to see, like, overall, I felt like a lot of our guys tried to play straighter, and some guys had some success hooking it. And then that became the answer to hook it, because that's what people did best at the end. So then the next squads, probably they weren't quite as nice. And then on top of that, had way less guys try and play straighter. And then by the third squad, it was just all over the place of what the solution was. And then the last day, of course, we got to see it all day. And then we just bombed them.
Yeah.
Like, Cooley bowled 1,100 the first 4 games. Well, like I say, Darren Tang, if you watch his vlog, Darren was talking about, man, it really feels nice to finally get the monkey off my back. I've made the US Open cut. He was out with like 3 games to go or 4 games to go. He wasn't even close. I mean, Flo, most embarrassing interview of the year. They interviewed poor Zach Weidman. So you're on the bubble, shot 139 over.
Yeah, I was looking at that when they did it. I'm like, he's on the bubble. That's not even close.
I mean, it never was, but hilarious. They did an interview about a poor guy being on the bubble. He missed by 111. He was on the bubble for being in the top 100 almost by the end of it.
Yeah,
it was like, yeah, it was.
So,
yeah, it's just how well you have to execute to get your solution. That's like,
yeah. I mean, that's always the case. It's not who has the most room; it's basically who doesn't need it.
So Lonnie brought up, who would have won if you guys had met in the bracket? Well, Chris always wins.
Yeah. Not if you shot more than 620.
Well, no, if you shot 600, you'd have won, because I only lost to people who shot 600. The 3 people I beat didn't bowl 600.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can see that we're both super confident in our reactions. What was that? What was your key to the success? I even told Flanagan, what's your key to the success? And I said, the other guy bowling bad.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give it to you.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at spares. I'm pretty good at not splitting when I like put my mind to it. That's what I'm going to do. If you could bowl a good score, you're going to win.
Yeah, they were just the bubble of being a millionaire.
Well, if you're like Zach, you probably have $500,000. You're halfway there.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, they were just. They're tricky.
Do you think it would be better for scoring pace to have everyone bowl together for multiple 5-game blocks instead of multiple squads doing 8 games? I don't think the games matter. I mean, obviously, ideally, you'd want everybody to bowl in one squad. That would be the ideal scenario. But it wasn't really possible with the way the bowling center was set up, with having to do the every other lane. It also, there's so many things that go into the decision making for the tournament, and part of the reason why we have 108 players, and part of the reason why we have things, is because they wanted this to be a major that could go to multiple venues and people be able to bowl.
Yeah.
And one thing that I did think that was quite interesting was we could have 48 per squad, but then you need more lanes for the range. But the thing with it is, Chad wants it to be that we only bowl on the 12 lanes that we're going to use for the tournament all the time. So everybody has the same amount of games on those lanes when it comes to the finals.
Yeah.
Which is, for the purity of the tournament, is a great idea. I don't necessarily know why the field couldn't be 144 or whatever the number would be with 48. Yeah, 144, because it could be 4 per pair. It doesn't have to be 3 per pair. But I understand some of it. But that's part of the reason why he doesn't want to use the entire bowling center, and then it gets the round robin. And we've all been in tournaments where that's happened, where you haven't, Yeah. I mean, we bowled a regional the other day, didn't we? At the doubles regional, when you and Dimitri bowled good in Houston. I spoke to one guy. He goes, I only bowled on one of the pairs we used for the round robin in qualifying. He goes, I didn't bowl on any of those lanes. Now, he wasn't saying that was the reason why he didn't win. He was just saying it was a really bizarre scenario. He was like, I didn't bowl in that part of the building. So,
okay, this is way more important. Who won the fantasy competition?
We did not. We came second. Your good performance screwed us.
Yeah, nobody saw that coming.
Yeah, if I'd have just taken one for the team the last game and bowled 140, we'd have won. Which would have got me the same amount. I actually, financially, it would have been better for me. But I decided to tease myself the last game, Chris. I needed the front 10 to make it. I had the front 8. It gave me the ultimate tease. I thought I threw a pretty decent shot. I left the flat 10. Missed it. Didn't really matter. Already lost, but yeah, we came second. Andrew Anderson was our was the guy who struggled, and it really shocked me, actually. Of all the people I picked, he wouldn't have been the first one I chose of like, wow, that's got a chance of going wrong. Another thing that did mess with us as well was B-Rob winning the roll-off. If Spencer had won the roll-off, I feel like we could have had a
20 point in there that would have moved up. Yeah.
But overall, the people I felt like, the people who I felt have done quite well over the years did good for us again. Tommy Jones came through for us again, maintained his run of always making the match play at the US Open. Let's have a little quick chat about bowling balls. Outside of your Booyah, what else did you use?
Reality. A bunch. On the high scoring squad, that's I use that basically exclusively at 295 over.
Yeah, that was to my detriment, you bowling that well with that ball.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I knew that was the answer. And then when it wasn't working, I felt like it was me. And once I got out of the really strong ball, then it was way better. I got to the phase 2 because they were just so much drier in the front by the time we bowled.
It makes sense because the short for us when we bowled late in the day, it just felt like it hooked early and didn't hook off the gutter.
Yeah, I mean,
it looked like early in the day.
They weren't difficult on our squad. I just used too much ball, and once I got out of that and I got to the phase 2, I could go back. The problem I had was I couldn't bowl the right part of the lane, but I felt like that was because I couldn't get my body into the right position to bowl the right part of the lane. And in hindsight, it was just because it was just hitting the lane and hooking.
Yeah.
And once I got to the phase, And once you got to the phase 2, you kind of like, I'm like, well, this can't be enough ball. I mean, Chris was using proton physics and realities and stuff, and he gets it to hook way earlier than I do.
I was being fairly nice to it though, so I wasn't trying to grab at it so much. But
yeah, no, I get it. I'm just like, in general, you really roll it into the front. So I'm thinking to myself, the first I practice paired myself. The practice pairs were so easy off the gutter, like, and then when I came to my first pair, it just didn't hook.
Yeah, the practice pairs hooked 5 to 7 more every day. So the practice was good to loosen up. It wasn't so good to get lined up.
Yeah, and the problem for me was I didn't really notice the difference as much the first 2 days because I used urethane on fresh both times.
Leon, yeah, about reseeding. We just talked about it earlier. I think that is something that's being talked about a fair amount, at least after, maybe after 2 days, maybe after the first day. I'm not sure, but especially with the bigger squads, I think it makes some sense. So,
yeah, one thing I do think it would be unfair for us to brush past is mentioning how good of a job Rod Gottschall did in his new role.
This is painful, but yes, he was really good at that. Had a couple of really good ideas with the locker room setup and the space for balls. Handled a lot of moving parts because COVID creates anything but business as usual, and he did pretty well at it and diffused, a lot of the situations that there were possible misunderstandings. I thought he did. I agree. I think he did a fantastic job at that.
Who was the biggest surprise that made the bracket? Well, either one of us. I mean, who was the biggest surprise? I guess the biggest surprise was probably Spencer. Like for most, like as to make the TV show, that was. I mean, they're on a ton of 18-year-olds making the TV show, and then it happened 2 weeks running.
Yeah, that's pretty.
7-10, baby.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm almost as pumped about it as Rob Stone. I think he's brilliant. Smoked it as well. Bang! It wasn't that was a. I've not seen a 7-10 sped like that since Kingpin. Like dead nutted it, smashed the 7 around. It wasn't one of those.
It looked a lot like Kingpin.
Yeah, it almost wasn't real life. I've never seen. I honestly all week I said to I can't remember it was somebody I crossed with at the Masters. I said somebody's going to make the 7-10 this week, like in a big spot, because I've never seen the pins bounce out like that on a GSX on those type of machines. But it was happening a lot. Like I was like quite often I was going for the 10 pin, never when the 7 was stood.
No,
and you'd see it come across on the lane. But yeah, that was definitely one that you want for the highlight reel. It wasn't like one of those, where it just makes it. It like crushed it.
Yeah, bounced off the ball and came back out on the lane, and it had some pace to it for sure. Most of the time when I got him come out, it's because I double tapped him and actually kind of bounced over the top of it and made it back up on the lane. But
yeah,
I didn't get it when the 7 was there.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. Both of those. I mean, there's been no shortage since Nick's done the lanes of lefties that had a chance, and those two guys both have been on the radar for a little while since they're 15 or 16 about how good they are. Once Spencer's going to college, I'm not sure about Andy. But those two are going to make some noise, I think, as their careers progress, for sure.
No. Yeah, she did. But like, wasn't Steve Miller? If it didn't happen on TV, it didn't happen.
Yeah. Martin even made it this week, so
Who's your front runner for Player of the Year? Wide open. I mean, that's really hard. I mean, I guess Doherty, because Doherty's the only one with 2 wins. But I mean, if Chris Vi can put together Chris Vi is the best bowler out of them at the minute.
He's made all the shows.
He's made all the big tournaments, and like, you know, he's been bowling great. I mean, Frankie's made 2 of the major shows. Kyle's made 2 of the major shows. So, I mean,
Vi made 4 or 5.
Huh?
Did Vi make 4 or 5?
Yeah, but not. I meant this season though. Vi's made 2.
Did he?
3, 2. Well, we had the players, and it depends which way you look at that. On real stats, that wouldn't get counted because he made the region show. Then the next one was the TOC, and he didn't make that one. So he's made he's made 3 because he made the World Championships, and then these 2. So no, I don't want your scam. Go away. Shout out to T-Mobile with the scam likely. Yeah. If you want to see TD's explanation, go on to our YouTube channel, and you can check out our show with TD. He explains it in full. So yeah.
Yeah, ironically, the Super Slam may end up having some impact on who wins because there's just not a lot of other tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a we've got a fairly strong summer schedule. It seems like.
Well, I take it because they're gonna have the playoffs and the clash and the other clash and the other thing.
Well, I don't think that those like clash and stuff and the strike derby is going to factor much into it. To be honest, in most people's thinking who vote.
The playoffs.
But I feel like we've got Lubbock, the Lucy, Jonesboro, going to see our friends up at Hijinks. Then we've got whoever can survive
Cold water,
and then there's one more in Virginia. That's on the schedule right now. So yeah, it's all to play for. Right now, I don't think that whoever you vote for, you're necessarily doing the wrong thing. Probably going to vote for Frankie right now. Nobody's making a strong case that that's the wrong scenario, so he wins the tiebreaker, and he's my roommate half the time. Yeah. No, not really.
No, I didn't really.
The only thing I can say is I don't think it was anything like what Flo spoke about. So that's the only thing. Who do you think will win the Super Slam?
I don't even know the format.
I think this comes very much, I'm sorry, Martin, but DKDC, don't know, don't care.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be a very short, sprintish.
I know the format.
They're
bowling one game, all 5 of them. Yeah. 5th is eliminated. The other 4 go 1v4, 2v3. So
it's like saying the role of riches having an impact on who's going to win. Well, I don't know. It's too short. It's coin flip formats are tough on that deal. So
yeah, I know 5 guys who care.
Yep, because there's a lot of money involved.
Yeah, I know that the ball reps, specifically the Storm ball reps, really care about that first game, because if Doherty can end up 5th, Sean can crack open a beer and watch the rest of the show. Because we've got 4 Storm company guys, so if they can eliminate Doherty in the first round, probably not too much for them to worry about after that.
Yeah, how much did Vi win? Vi won $30,000. Somebody asked why urethane on the fresh. It's mostly to blend out the front to the back, and when the lanes are hard, guys that have a lot of axis rotation and no ability to control it with hand positions, throw that to cover it up. There's not much other way to put it. So
yeah, it creates left in general.
Yeah, it just blends out bar reaction, so it covers mistakes up. Duke doesn't need it.
The thing that's really strange about it, though, is when it really works, though, it's like it doesn't matter how good you are with the rat if you can't win.
No, I went for the home run play in the U.S. Open, and because there's so many guys throwing, I'm like, well, it's just going to have to be bad. and I'm going to have to, make a run not using it to get around that many people. And in the morning, it looked kind of okay. I didn't quite take advantage of enough. And then in the evening, it was the Urethane Fest, and they bombed them. And so I fell pretty steadily from there.
Not for me.
Nope. That makes no difference to me. If you can win, pros are pros. They don't care whose house.
To be fair, that isn't the bowling center he lives in either.
No, he's just bowled there he's bowled around there since a kid. So
I mean, hey Lonnie, put it this way: if they bowled at Christown, I don't think that I'd have a very big advantage. Now, if we want to go and bowl out at Lakeview, come get some. There's some of the centers in Phoenix. I have no idea. I would guess probably, but I don't know.
Yeah, once things can return back to a relative normal. So, have AJJ on, talk about a match. It really wasn't that big a deal. He was just, he had a chance to win and needed a double, and he'd gone 4-pin on that lane, and then he went 4-9 in the 10th. And
yeah, I mean, it wasn't a good shot.
Yeah, he acted like he couldn't catch a break. Well, 4-pin when your rev rate's 470 and a lot of axis rotation is not a bad break. That's just not moving enough. So
yeah, I mean, trust me. Let me just go back on that one. When I said it was not a good shot, it wasn't a shot where it hit the pins that was going to strike.
Right. Now
that doesn't necessarily mean he did. He threw it like an ass, like I did against Vi. I'm just saying that. There hasn't been many times when I've needed a strike and I've 4-9 and I've been like, oh my God, I got screwed on that one.
Yeah, that's not that close to being a strike. Now, if you need a mark and you 4-9, that's a pretty terrible break.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, awful. Now, also, it's way more of a bad break. And this was one of the fun conversations I ever heard with Oscar and Walter Ray. It's way more of a bad break for Walter Ray than it is for AJ.
Yeah.
Because almost a 2-pin hit is like a hair is closer to being a strike for AJ than a 4-9 hit.
Yeah.
For where he should be really hitting.
A 2-pin is a board away from being a scout or a shaker or whatever.
Yeah.
A 4-pin is actually about 2 boards away from where he's really aiming.
Uh-huh. So
same with Cooley. Cooley made the same thing. It acted like Spencer got a huge break because he went Brooklyn the first one at 10th, but he was on a mark, and then he didn't cash it in. So it didn't really matter. And Cooley 4-pin, and that's not supposed to be a strike. So, yeah, same thing. It's ironic when your rev rate's that high that 4-pin is supposed to strike. I don't think 4-pin's supposed to strike, and I have a way less angle going through the pins than they do. So, yeah, I mean, Lucas was not very nice to AJ. He made him look he made him look bad, and there wasn't really that much reason for that. He was pretty upset when he lost, as most people are. It was a big match. When that third one gets you into the right part of the bracket where you're down to basically you're in the top 12 at that point once you get to the 8 winners, and that's a huge match. And he walked by once and slammed some balls around, so I let him go. And he walked by twice, and I went to say something, and he was still pretty angry, and so I let it go. And then the third time around, I thought, okay, it's time. And about that time, he walked right up the stairs. So I'm like, okay, cool. Hey, good game. All right. But not like I have not done anything that would warrant a similar reaction. So we're good. We're probably going to bowl the Longview doubles together. But it didn't mean I didn't give him a hard time about it either. So
there you go, Mitch. I disagree. Pray thinks 4-pin should strike. He's got quite a lot of evidence to suggest that he's right, though.
It's a good point.
The thing with Prather is like, if you look at all of Prather's strikes, a 9-pin hit should carry because it does. A bucket crumbler should carry because it does. A trip 4 should happen because he does it all the time. I mean, he's just feeling it. Yeah. But AJ's rev rate is a lot higher than Prather's. And it's probably not quite as soft off his head.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. The best moment was after Stu's match with Chapman, where Jesper walked past and smacked me on the ass. We like to think so.
Yeah. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, your match with AJ, among a lot of other things that happened in there, AJ ended up needing to mark in the 10th
Yeah.
and 2-8'd. And you go, oh, 2-8. I can't tell you any spare I'm more terrified of shooting than the 2-8 on that game 3. Because the only thing that hooks at that point is the front and everything to the left of you.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, AJ didn't cover himself in glory with his spare shots in that match.
No, he missed a few. He missed a few that gave an opportunity.
Yeah, and a few that he made early on in that game, he didn't really make. He just got the spare. And then I returned the favor by tripping the 2-pin back to back on the left lane in the 8th and the 10th. That was nice. So we're trying to get rid of some wasps right next to me. So that's fun. I'm just happy I'm the other side of the glass.
All right.
Look at this, Mike Flanagan. Fun being around both of you. Thanks for the friendship, guys. Yeah, we had a bit of fun in the booth. Chris did a bunch of interviews. Tripled his interviews for the year in that run of 2 weeks. 3, 6, 9, 10 isn't much better. When I throw 16-pound balls, not really that big of a deal with 16-pound balls.
Well, yeah, when they're easier. I mean, that spare is never fun. But the 2-8 a lot of times is not a very hard spare.
Well, what I really mean is the 3, 6, 9, 10 when you're using urethane,
right,
is way less of an issue. I mean, you just miss right and you spare it almost every time. For me, anyway. That's one spare that I didn't appreciate shooting when I changed to 15-pound balls for a little while.
I'm gonna go ahead. Since Flanagan's here, I want him to hear this. No, this is not a thing. No matter how much he wants it to be a thing, he's not that important. Lucas is way more of a cloud than Flanagan is. In general, we almost quietly kind of like Flanagan. Lucas, not really. So,
wow.
That's all I got to say about that.
Oh dear. So, well, there's quite a lot of cool content out from those couple of weeks. You can see the end of both my match and with AJ and Chris's match with AJ and Chris's match with Duke. They're all up on Flo's YouTube channel. So check that out. If you want to see how guys attack the lanes, specifically Chris Vi, check out our video on YouTube. I did a practice day video on the first pattern of how guys were attacking them. Got a little bit of revenge on Vi on that one.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. So I almost feel like I might clip that section and say, this is how you win the US Open.
There you
go. So
last Fit Jam, I took down Texas Jesus. And I'm so bad now that when you lose to me, you just retire. You don't hold it for that anymore.
Yeah, if you want to know the real reason why Anthony didn't bowl the US Open, it's because he couldn't beat Chris.
You can't beat him. I'm not even going to try.
I'm out. If I'm not sharp enough to beat Barnes, I'm not sharp enough to bowl the US Open. I'm done. See ya. Oh boy.
Hey.
So real quick, senior tour.
Yes.
What's going on? What's your schedule like?
I'm gonna head out to Clearwater next weekend and start bowling before they're on the schedule now, which is Clearwater Villages, North Carolina, and Centerville, Virginia. And so
that's why the playoffs in the league was, right? Or is that a different?
Yeah. Yeah, I can't wait to go back there. I bowled so well the first time around. They'll be a little softer this time than the last time, I guess.
I don't know that going across that house is going to get any more fun, though.
Probably not. That would be my guess, is it wouldn't. But yeah, we do have, by the way, since you brought that up, we have lots of new merch on beefandbarnzy.com and links to our jerseys, joggers, sweats, pullovers, hoodies, T-shirts, Bunch of stuff on there that is set up now, and those are available. And gosh, what else? Getting ready to head out, play a little golf on the senior tour, and maybe bowl a little bit. They weren't super hard in week one, where Emleto averaged 250 on day one, and I think Pete averaged 250 on day two. But we'll give it a go.
So here we are. This is Beef and Barnzy. So that's some of the new options. If you click here, there we go. So a couple of things that have been quite popular. The jogs have been quite popular. The new tees. If you have a lady in your life, Linda loves this one. I know my wife really likes this color. The hot coral even.
Coral, yeah.
And we still got a few of the favorites still up there. So yeah, check them out. Support the merch. We love it. Love seeing Beef and Barnzy shirts out and about. It's always fun. We're way more likely to come up and chew the fat with you if you're wearing a Beef and Barnzy shirt. I know it's not really fair. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. So I guess we'll come back at you on Thursday. So,
do we ship worldwide now? I don't know. Yes, maybe. I'll try and figure it out. I've been saying that to you for a little while, though. I'm really sorry.
Merv,
can we get into Asia? Hey, Merv, get back to us. Maybe we can get them made in Asia as well. Oh, there you go. The boss says yes. Yes, we can. Get ordering, Martin. The boss says yes.
There you go. Well, it's time for me to get on the phone and see where all the extra bowling balls went to, and see if we can figure out who stole what and get some of those back, and get a few of them to Clearwater.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So, hey Merv, glad you're watching. Always good to see your smiling face. So, we'll be back on Thursday, same time, same channel, and we'll be bringing you something new and exciting. I'm sure, maybe a little bit more comedy, hopefully. But
somebody's happy.
You what?
Somebody's happy. We can get Beef and Barnzy to Denmark.
Yeah, there you go. So, once again, out there, if you get a chance, support those centers, and as they get open in those small businesses, and help them get through this. And when you get a choice, we would appreciate if you would support our sponsors: Storm, Rotogrip, Niner Global, Vice, Cool Whip, 3G Shoes, Master Bowler Smart, and Mark Baker Bowling. So, until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. God bless.
See ya.